For more on this, I'm joined in studio by Duma Qubule. He's the director at the Center for Economic Development and Transformation. COSATU President Dumo Dlamini joins us from our Pretoria studio. Good afternoon, Mr. Qubule. Perhaps I'll start with you. You've said if we listen to ratings agencies, we won't achieve GDP growth. What do you mean by this, and what do we need to do to achieve this growth?
I think, Nzinga, the first thing I want to say is that this recession is self-inflicted. South Africans should know that this recession has got nothing to do with the global financial crisis. The core problem in the South African economy is that we've had very slow growth between 2009 and 2016. Our economy grew by about 1.4% per year during that period, and in per capita terms it grew by 0.4%. So what has happened then is that unemployment went from 6 million people to 9.3 million people. There was a 3.3 million increase in the unemployed people. So, and the unemployment rate for black Africans is at a staggering 41%. So what I say is that we are in the worst post-apartheid economic crisis, and we have to take urgent steps to get out of this crisis. Now, what I am saying we should do, what the Minister of Finance should have done after the downgrade, I would have called an emergency meeting, I would have, with the cabinet, and I would have said, we need to suspend the inflation target until we have a return to an acceptable GDP growth rate. That's the first thing I would have done. The second thing I would have got together, and I would have said the central bank must signal that it will cut interest rates immediately, and it will signal that it will continue to cut rates until we get to an acceptable GDP growth rate. The second thing I've been talking about is that we need a fiscal stimulus. I believe that we need a fiscal stimulus for about 450 billion. That's about 3% of GDP per year for 3 years. And this can be financed by the financial institutions. I was speaking at the Banking Association recently, and also by the Public Investment Commission, was the corporation, and also by the Reserve Bank. So we can find that money in our economy. We have to get our economy going. And the last thing I want to say is that macroeconomics was invented 101 years ago by the great economist Keynes. And over the past century, nobody has come up with any other way to stimulate an economy in a recession except to pump more money, liquidity into the economy through lower interest rates and more fiscal policy stimulus. There is no other way. South Africans must get used to that, period. If we don't do that, we will have to wait for 10 million, 11 million, 12 million unemployed. 46%, 45% unemployment amongst black Africans, and 50%. How much more pain can we take as South Africans before we realize that we have to change our economic policies?
Let's go to Pretoria, where COSATU President Dumo Dlamini is standing by. You've heard the solutions and problems proposed in studio. Can you take us through why you believe that we're in a recession and what solutions you propose to get South Africa out of it?
Thank you very much. Indeed, we all agree now, and everybody's saying the same thing. The country is officially in recession. It is going to be a heavy burden continuing on the workers of this country and the working class in general. We being in this situation, I think those who are saying we must begin to work hard to rebuild the confidence of this country are correct, and that we all need to move and pull our sleeves, get down on the work to really work hard to rebuild the confidence of this country. 27.7% of unemployment is too huge, and it gets worse. The unemployment, inequality, poverty still remains a pain on the workers of this country, and it has been the case for a long while now. We believe we are in recession. Let's get up, let us smell the coffee and ensure that we get together. The Minister of Finance has got to move fast, convening all of us, labor, business and government and community at NEDLAC, so that we do what we did in 2008 to get ourselves out of this situation. I am told that in the state where we are, it's going to take us a bit of a while. So it would require the nation, the country, to get together and reduce the negativity that is currently dominating the globe, or rather the country at the moment.
Duma, you've spoken during Pravin Gordhan's tenure as finance minister about how there's too much focus on austerity and keeping costs down, and there's no radical solutions being proposed. We've been told that now that Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba is there's not going to be a change in fiscal policy. So can we as South Africans expect to continue on this path to negative economic situations like this for the foreseeable future?
Okay, what we have to understand is why we got into this recession. Let's start at the recession, the first recession in 2009. So the central banks started increasing interest rates before the global financial crisis started in June 2007. They increased interest rates by 250 basis points. Now, after the global financial crisis for a year, they continued to increase interest rates by 250 basis points, while every single central bank in the world was cutting rates. So we went against the trend, the best practice internationally, when there's a crisis, to put more liquidity into the system. So we had 500 basis points increase in interest rates during that period, and that resulted in 2009 with 1 million jobs lost. Now, what happened after that? We started cutting rates again by 650 basis points between 2010 and 2014. So what happened then, there was a mini recovery from the global financial crisis, and we created 1.3 million jobs. Now, since 2004, this is why we are in the situation. The central bank has again started increasing interest rates by 200 basis points, and the fiscal consolidation and austerity of the national treasury has tipped us into the recession. So the finance minister can say he will continue on this austerity path, but the only result of austerity and high interest rates is economic ruin. Now, the question for the finance minister is how much pain must we take as South Africans? Must it be 10 million people, 11 million people, before he realizes that he's completely on the wrong path?
Duma Dlamini, you just touched earlier on the fact that in our previous recession, COSATU had issued a statement saying government, labour and business must work together in order to ensure that they get out of the situation. This time around, you're saying you're waiting for the finance minister to convene at NED. Like, what else is COSATU doing to ensure that workers who will be the hardest hit by this recession and our current economic crisis don't get too badly affected?
Yeah, firstly, I want to agree fully with the points Mr. Duma Gqubule has been saying, because COSATU has also been raising this point for many, many years. We cannot continue to rely on just but one instrument to deal with inflation, which is the interest rates sort of a fiscal approach on dealing with the problems. We are saying, yes, the minister must convene that meeting, but it cannot be that you must still use the same policy trajectory followed over the past 23 years and hope that you are going to find different solutions. We must create employment so that you can get more people working, so that more taxes could be paid. We must change the strategy of using interest rates to target inflation in this country. Let's get the Reserve Bank that is more looking into the country other than a Reserve Bank that does not think about developing our economy. We have to change, we have to get together. COSATU and the rest of organized labor at NEDLAC, we are ready and we are committed. We've been taking these roadshows with the Minister of Finance in the previous times. We will continue to do so to show everybody that whilst we are under this squeeze, we are prepared to work with them to normalize the situation.
Okay, you've both said now that dropping of the interest rates is a possible solution to this crisis. Other economists have also said that as a solution to other countries who are in a recession. How do you lobby, and can you lobby either the finance minister or the Reserve Bank to say, look at this solution, even though it's not what you're doing?
I just want to say one thing, is that about these roadshows that we've been having for the past 8 years. The roadshows have delivered nothing. Quite frankly, my view is that the roadshows are a waste of time, because all that comes out of these roadshows is vague commitments towards confidence-boosting measures. What we need to get to now is practical measures like the one that you're talking about. And I just think that someone must sit down what Mr. Dlamini is talking about, that we need to have the Reserve Bank at the table as well at Nedbank, and they must answer questions from the other stakeholders at Nedbank. They are implicated in causing the last 2 recessions, and they must come and answer in front of Nedbank. And I think National Treasury must also come and answer about their austerity policies, because they are also implicated in this recession. Yeah.
Let's cross back to our Pretoria studio. Mr. Dlamini, we've heard from economists and analysts that have been speaking to us on this show that political leadership is a problem when it comes to how we're dealing with our economy, because without political will and without certain measures in place, there is no way we can get out of this financial crisis that we're facing. What's your thoughts?
Look, it is true that the country, South Africa, is led also by politicians. And indeed, all must be responsible and stop this negativity that has been dominating the country for a number of months now. Get on the table, show that you are solving the problems, meetings must be held, and solutions must be found for this country. That is very, very urgent for everybody.
Dlamini and Qobule, thanks so much for your time on SABC News. It's time for a short break. When we come back, we look at the African markets. Do stay with us on SABC News.